This month, we will be dedicating our podcast to mental health awareness. Mental health impacts all of us, and we hope that these discussions bring focus to these topics. Some of the topics discussed in today's podcast may be sensitive to some viewers. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to Windham High School's podcast series on mental health issues for teenagers. In each episode, we'll be exploring different topics related to mental health, from anxiety, disorder, eating challenges, and fitness and well-being. You know that being a teenager can be tough, and navigating those challenges of adolescence while also managing mental health can feel overwhelming. That's why we've created this podcast series to provide you with some information, tools, and support you need to take care of your mental health and well-being. Our guests will include experts in the field of mental health, as well as staff from Windham High School who can help be a support for those challenges. Together, we'll be discussing practical strategies for managing stress and anxiety, building healthy coping strategies, and navigating intuitive eating. We'll also be tackling how we can all work together to break down barriers and promote understanding in school and at home. Whether you're dealing with a mental health challenge yourself or you're looking to support a friend or a loved one, we hope that this podcast series will provide you with the information and inspiration you need to talk about mental health and well-being. So sit back, relax, and join us as we delve into the world of mental health and explore what it means to be a teenager in today's world.
Hi, so my name is Amanda Miller-Johnson, MJ. I'm one of the mental health counselors here at Windham High School. I'm with Donna Chartrand, one of our school nurses, and Katie LaPlant, an area mental health counselor who works out of Derry. We're here today to talk to you all about eating disorders, intuitive eating, and area resources for students and their families. Let's start with talking a little bit about just kind of the principles, the background, a little bit about eating disorders, and some general information for folks.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. So, eating disorders, I've been working with teens and adults, for almost 20 years in the field, and I've come across many eating disorders, as you can imagine. I think I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about how eating disorders, they're very complex. I want to focus on warning signs to look for. I think eating disorders, what I've noticed, start in early adolescence as kids are going through, puberty, and there are multiple triggers to that. Typically, eating disorders, actual disordered eating, clinically disordered eating, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more underneath. And I think that's something, if somebody chooses to go get some help for that, they can uncover there. So some basic warning signs would be you're looking for changes in behavior. Like any kind of other disorder, any kind of anxiety, depression, you're looking for changes in behavior, changes physically, so weight changes that are, not just like a one-time weight change, but just, it could be sudden weight loss or weight gain. It could be up and down fluctuations. It could be withdrawal from your peers, not having as much interest in doing things, a lot of preoccupation with food, body image, mirror checking, weight checking, things like that, that tend to interfere with their focus and their moods and behaviors.
Can you explain, just for folks who might not know, what something like mirror checking is?
Yeah, mirror checking is, we all look in the mirror, right, to see how we look, but it would be like an obsession with that. It would change your mood after, so you might look in the mirror, it might become obsessive, compulsive. It affects how you feel after to a degree where you may not want to go out. You may get, again, preoccupied with what you're wearing, how you're looking. It causes a significant level of stress and anxiety.
Ms. Chartrand, what are some things that teachers or people at school might notice, do you think?
Usually would say that the teachers are not the ones that are bringing issues to me. I usually would see someone in a hallway or coming into my office, starting to ask questions. Certainly some of the guidance counselors have pointed out students that are starting to appear like, they're not eating, they're choosing not to eat from first thing in the morning until the end of the day. I don't think anybody chooses have disordered eating, I think it just comes upon them, and it becomes almost like a cyclical thing where it's not a choice that you would want that for your lifestyle. I think they'll come into me and in a very private conversations, because if anyone has learned anything about the health office here, when someone comes in, it's a private conversation. So I think the kids are more apt to come in and speak a little more freely. And then we can point them in the right direction, whether it be the counselors or parents, or just give someone show them that we're seeing like red flags. And there's a trust issue too. You need to trust the person that you're talking to. And I think the health office does do that with students. And we focus more on well-being of the student, the whole person. We're not going to start talking about, well, what did you have for breakfast and what did you have for lunch? And, we're not about that. We're just about the bottom line is, why are you feeling this way? We're worried about your well-being.
And I think it's so, like you said, that trusted relationship is so important, because I think a lot of times we hear that information of warning signs might come from anywhere. It might come from a yearly pediatrics appointment where all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, there's a significant weight change, or maybe some blood work comes back that has some questionable things. But a lot of it does come from those really trusted relationships of the kid being able to come and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I need someone to talk to. And it's so important that that kids have that person. What are some ways that we within the school and parents within the community, we can build those relationships and also build some of that healthy relationship with food and with eating?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think it starts with ourselves. I've been working with families for a long time, and I promote a lot of self-care for moms, dads, even teachers and staff. What I'm learning, working with kids, is the more authentic I am with them. I did struggle actually with an eating disorder in my teens and early 20s, and I share that fairly openly with them. Again, being very careful not to dump my stuff, onto them, and they're not becoming my little therapist. But it's more of a sharing to help them to feel, I think comfortable, and hey, I get it. I've been there. I've been through that. So I think it starts with us knowing how to, in a healthy way, be authentic with teens. I think sometimes we feel as adults that, we have to hide things or say things a certain way. So I'm very big into that, and modeling, so I will model. I don't typically preach anything that I don't do myself. I wouldn't go see a doctor who's telling me to do X, Y, and Z, but then I can see that, they're not doing X, Y, and Z. So I think it starts with modeling in our homes, modeling at school the best that we can, and doing that piece. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to be a good role model for the kids that come into our offices, but also not to place any blame on anybody for what's going on, because you could talk about that all day, about who's to blame. Is it society? Is it what people are seeing, in their phones every day? You kind of look at yourself in a different light because everybody else looks so good. So it's hard, you can't place blame on different aspects. You have to be very careful about that.
I agree with that, yeah. I think that those types of things are more triggers.
Yes.
They can be triggers to the behaviors. An eating disorder is like you said, a cyclical behavior that happens over time and becomes disordered. So, and there are triggers to that, but there's always something more underlying going on. So.
We have multiple models within life, right? Like, I've got the modeling from my parents that might have one thing. We'll also, close relationships with like an aunt or an uncle, or somebody who's in the community that I have some sort of relationship with. And so I think for all of our kids, there are, like you said, there's multiple places where we're getting information, where we're getting that modeling, be it from an influencer on social media or grandma's house. Lots of places. So what are some places where we can find those good models? I know growing up, diet culture in the 90s, as I aged myself, was not the greatest. We had some pretty bad models at that time.
I think we still do.
Yes. I think there are definitely some places where we have some pretty negative models. Where are some places we can find those good models for those of us who might not know where to go to start figuring out our own relationship with food and with body image?
Intuitive eating. I know you've asked about that. I have adopted a model of intuitive eating in my own life, in my family. It's something that I've studied quite a bit about. I know that a lot of clinicians are adopting this into their practice as well. It's actually a program written by 2 nutritionists, which is great. And it's basically a non-diet approach to, a healthy relationship with food. Works on body positivity, things like that. It definitely has 10 principles. I won't go through all of them. You can certainly look it up, but touches on the whole person. So we don't just, look at intuitive eating is really like tuning into your physical body, asking questions like, what do I feel like, this week, today? How am I feeling? Am I hungry? Am I full? If I eat this, is it going to satisfy me just emotionally? Is it going to satisfy me physically? Just starting to ask some of those questions and become aware of that. So that's typically what I've kind of adopted into my practice working with people, and the teens seem to really like that. I think parents seem to really like that, but it is anti-cultural. It's not the norm, so it's different.
I do like that it makes food morally neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Like food is food.
Yeah, for sure. And again, tuning into teaching people how to reconnect with themselves, and which again, teens, we're all like just so disconnected from ourselves. So, asking them things like, what do you need right now? And then teaching them how to advocate for that, so, and not just in terms of food. I think it trickles into other areas of life, which is great.
Right,
so.
And the habits that they're forming now will eventually be their adult habit, and hopefully it will get better and better as we age.
Yes.
If somebody has a child, or if someone is concerned for themselves and has some worries about their own eating, what are some initial resources? What are some ways that they can reach out?
So the NEDA online, you can look them up, and they are great. They have a fantastic list and videos of warning signs. They actually have a 24-hour crisis line that you can call to, and they will help you find resources in your area. So I think that's probably one of the best ones around. I know that I do some work with teens. I also run some workshops. There's a woman, Jill Fimble. She does intuitive eating out of her business over in, I want to say it's Milford, and hers is the Wellness Seed. She does a lot of that holistic, mind-body work, mindfulness, yoga, things like that. She has like a whole wellness center. So I think she's great. I think, getting people, it really is about the awareness piece, getting people in tune with what's going on. I know that there's a lot of great people around that are running groups. Amaret O'Brien, who I know you guys know. So she runs some great teen groups for girls, I think boys now as well. And then there's Hannigan Counseling, which is right downstairs from me. And they work more, actually they do see teens as well. They're husband and wife. And she sees more the younger kids, doing more skills-based work, and he works with more of the teenagers. So they're a great resource to, I think, get started. And there's a couple of other, again, if people are looking for treatment programs for something more severe, there's the Center for Eating Disorders in Bedford, which I've used a few times. There's Cambridge Eating Disorder Center, and then there's Reflections Eating Disorder Treatment through Parkland. So those are the 3 that we will typically refer to if there's,
Excellent.
What was the name of the book on intuitive?
So it's Intuitive Eating,
Oh, is that
Intuitive Eating.
Do you know the author?
I forget their last names, but it's Elise and Evelyn. So I can certainly
Google
send those
that.
to you. Yeah. And they have a teen workbook now, which is what I've been using with the teens.
Oh, nice.
So specifically geared toward teens, which is great.
What are your thoughts on other programs such as like Healthy at Every Size or various different things that tend to have a pretty big hashtag presence on social media?
Yeah, I think you kind of spoke to this, that I think those are great, and I think it's great for, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but kind of rewiring what we're learning in terms of what's socially acceptable and not. So I think it's great that we're seeing that diversity and that we're hearing that language. But there's always, again, it just goes so much deeper than a shape or a size. There's usually a lot more going on underneath an eating disorder. So again, eating disorders are, there are triggers such as shape and size and things like that, but there's a lot more to it.
Excellent. Any last words y'all like to share? Little tidbits of advice?
Only thing that I would like to say right now is that for all of you listening out there, just feel free to speak to the counselors in the building, administrators, the health office. We're all there. We all are listening and watching, and we all want what's best for you, and just feel comfortable coming to see us.
All right, well, thank you both so much for joining us today and giving us this nice little overview on kind of what we can do to all improve our relationships with ourselves, with food, and make sure we're all watching out for one another.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's topic. We want your feedback. If you have any questions or are interested in different topics we discuss here on the Windham Voyager podcast, please email me at podcast@windhamsd.org. Thanks again for taking this voyage with me. For the Windham Voyager, my name is Natalie Jondrasko, and we will see you next time.